Excellent Sports Talk with Mark Bradley.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installment of Excellent Sports Talk with Mark. I am your host, Mark Bradley, and I appreciate everybody being here for another show. And look, we have an excellent show today. It's going to be a big, heavy basketball show for sure, but it's going to be fun nonetheless. And it's going to be a great show, my favorite show ever. Thank you. I appreciate it. Hilarious. So we have a heavy basketball show, but we are going to sprinkle a little bit of Black college football, okay? So let's go ahead and give you the rundown of the show. But first, we have to say welcome to Excellent Sports Talk with Mark. So let's go to the rundown of the show. So our first segment is going to be an HBCU college football top tier teams list. So this is inspired by HBCU Gameday. If you haven't seen them on YouTube, go ahead and watch them. But they did a top 10 segments of the top teams in 2022. I'm going to do top 5. I'm going to do top 5 just for timing issues. So we're going to give our top 5 Black college football teams going into 2022 year. Then we're going to go and discuss the NBA Finals, the NBA Game 6 Finals. Has been decided, and the Warriors are the winners of the 2020-21-22 NBA team. So, with that being said, we're going to talk about now, is Stephen Curry the best point guard in the NBA? You never know. So we're going to go ahead and discuss that. Let's not get into that yet. Let's not get into that. And we're going to talk about, now that Stephen Curry has 4 rings, is he ahead of LeBron in his legacy? LeBron has 4 rings himself. We have to see. We're going to talk about it. So if you guys have any questions or comments, by all means, go ahead and leave it in the comment section. We already have a couple of ones. You think FAMU, you think Jackson State? Let's get into it. Let's talk about it. All right, so like I said, this was inspired by HBCU Gameday, and they gave their top 10 list of teams whose top rank in going into 2022. So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys my top 5. Okay, so let's go ahead and start off with number 5. Coming out of the SWAC conference. Now, this might be a big stretch for me to say because this team wasn't really that good last season, but I think Grambling State right now is a top 5 team. And the only reason why I say Grambling State is going to be a top 5 team in the HBCU college football, I think they have a big upside going into this season. You bring in Hugh Jackson, a proven coach in the NFL, a proven coach in the NFL. He's going to get this team up to a different level of football that I don't think Grambling State has been used to since Eddie Robinson was there. I think now it's their time to really start shining, getting a lot of good players, because Hugh Jackson is a guru, an offensive guru. He's taking NFL teams to top statuses as far as offensively. I think with Hugh Jackson, he gets the right people in place as far as coaching. I think they're going to start recruiting a little bit better, because Hugh Jackson's name does have a little bit of pull in the football world. So I think a lot of people are going to eventually get with the program and really gravitate towards Grambling. I think they're going to take a big leap this year. Now, last year they was not the best team, and as far as team wise, their record didn't show last year. They were 3-5 in the SWAC. SWAC East, SWAC West, and 4-7 overall. That's not going to cut it. Of course, it's been a down year. A couple of seasons ago, there was a very good team, but it was a down year. But now I think you bring in Hugh Jackson, a very proven coach. I think they're going to find a way to start winning games and really assert themselves into the HBCU landscape. And I think in the next 4 or 5 years, they'll be competing with Jackson State for the SWAC. So I think that they have a pretty big upside going forward. And so with my number 4 team, I have Prairie View A&M. Now, Prairie View A&M had an excellent season last year, being number 1 in the SWAC West. They had a very strong season. It was a very exciting team, very good defensive team. It was very fun to watch. So now it's going to be a little different. First and foremost, I want to go back. Let me step back. I thought it was a big shock that Prairie View did win the SWAC West because we all thought Alcorn State, who's been a very strong football team over the past 3 to 4 years, even though they did take a very long break as far as them not competing in football because of COVID. Of course, you want to make sure your players are safe. But now that they were back, they didn't have the best season like Alcorn State. They did end up going 5-3. Alcorn State did, but they was a game behind Prairie View, which was a shock to everybody. I thought it was a big shock to everybody that Prairie View were where they are last year. And now continuing on to this year, it's going to be pretty different because we're talking about Prairie View is bringing in a new coach named Bubba McDowell. And is that going to affect them going forward? Because now that Eric Dooley has left to go to Southern, it's going to be different. Now, can they recreate that success that Eric Dooley has put a good culture into Prairie View? I don't know. It's always weird when you have a coaching change because it's like you're starting brand new, and nobody likes to do that, especially when you're in college. It's really tough. So we have to see how they manage to maintain and recreate the same magic that they had last year. And I don't know if they can, but we have to see. The SWAC West is always wide open. You really never know what you can get. It's a lot of good teams coming out of the SWAC West. So let's go ahead and continue on to our 3rd team. And we're going to talk about FAMU. Yes, Florida A&M University. Now, Florida A&M has been a very strong team, just like Alcorn. It's another strong team for the past couple of years. Unfortunately, they did have issues with they couldn't compete into the Celebration Bowl. So that's really set them back because they've been a very good team, especially with Ryan Stanley, who broke in so many records at FAMU. So I thought that his departure was going to hurt them, but no, that wasn't the case. They played very well, and I didn't know how well they would compete. They would compete switching from the MEAC to the SWAC last year, their first full year into the SWAC. I thought this was going to be a little tough adjustment. I thought the SWAC, had some very good teams. I was going to be very strong. And it was going to give FAMU some problems. But that was not the case last year. FAMU went 7-1 in the SWAC East with a 9-3 overall record. Unfortunately, they was in the same division as Jackson State. And look, anytime you're in a division with that well-oiled machine they have going out there in Jackson, Mississippi, it's hard because any other conference that Florida A&M could have been in, they would have breezed through that conference. 7-1 is not to be taken lightly, okay? That is a very strong record. So I feel like they are going to recreate that same magic and really compete against Jackson State for that SWAC East title. And they can go ahead and they have something to play for this year because they couldn't play in the Celebration Bowl last year. So now they have something to play for, and they're going to give everything in their power to really beat Jackson State. I think basically all roads lead to Jackson State at this juncture, because I don't see Alabama A&M really being as well as they were last year, because they are losing a Quill Carr because he did declare for the draft. And look, he was one of the best, Clear Glass, I'm sorry. He was one of the best quarterbacks in college football, in FCS, actually. That man was a strong quarterback. So now that he's gone, I don't see Alabama A&M really competing anymore. And Bethune-Cookman had trouble adjusting their rivals out there in Florida. They didn't adjust. So I think it's a 2-horse race going into 2022 with Florida A&M and Jackson State competing for the SWAC West. But that's neither here nor there. We have to see. You got to go out there and play the game, right? So coming in at number 2, I have South Carolina State coming in at number 2. Now, I know it's crazy for a lot of people to say, why would you put South Carolina State number 2 when they beat Jackson State and beat them up pretty bad in the Celebration Bowl? Look, it's kind of hard for me to, put them in the number 1 spot, because they still have a lot to prove. They still have a lot to prove. And the MEAC isn't as exciting as it is as the SWAC, unfortunately, because look, the MEAC only has about 6 teams in the conference. And none of them is really that good, other than maybe NC North Carolina Central. But look, South Carolina did what they had to do. They went 5-0 in the conference. They had an overall record of 7-5. They were underdogs going into Atlanta and playing Jackson State, because everybody thought Jackson State was going to blow them out the water. Everybody thought Jackson State was just going to run the table in the HBCU, but that was not the case, man. They played some dominant football on both ends of the ball, was just playing tough defense. Shedeur Sanders had the hardest time throwing the ball. He did not have a Shedeur Sanders type game. Offense in the second half played very well. Wolverine, who ended up declaring for the draft, I believe he's still in the Jets, because they picked him up in free agency. He was a big baller for South Carolina State. Now that he's gone, Shaq Davis, who had an amazing game in the Celebration Bowl, I believe he had 3 touchdowns in the game. He's back. So he's going to be a big baller for South Carolina State. And I think they're going to run the MEAC again. And really, I don't see anybody who can compete with them, other than maybe Norfolk State, who's usually a good team, didn't have a great year last year. And maybe NC Central might compete with them, but I don't see anybody beating. Buddy Pugh has that team playing very well. So South Carolina State is definitely coming in second. And of course, who we have number 1 is Jackson State. Come on now. That's no surprise. They recruited so well in Jackson State. I think they had the best recruiting class in all of FCS. When you bring the number 1 recruited player, flip commit from Florida State to Jackson State, like, come on, there's nothing more to be said about that. That right there is in itself is crazy. So Travis Hunter is going to make noise. His 3 years there at Jackson State, it's going to make noise. Deion Sanders is so charismatic. It's like, how can you say no to that man? Like, how can you say, look, I don't want to go to Jackson State? Come on now. He's so charismatic. He's just have this aura about him that he can just get any player he wants. And that team is just going to be dominant on both sides of the ball. Shedeur Sanders is going to have another season under his belt. Had a great freshman season. Now going on to a sophomore season, he's only going to get better. He's seen everything that college football has to offer. He's going to have an amazing year. That atmosphere there at Jackson State, it's going to be amazing. We're talking about sellout crowds. the crowd is going to be all in it. The bands is going to be playing one of the best bands in all of HBCUs out there. It's just so hard for them to see them losing a lot of games. Now, like I said, I think they're going to run the table. Of course, FAMU is going to be their biggest competition out there in the SWAC East. But I think they're going to run the table. We're going to see them at the Celebration Bowl again. I do think it's going to be a rematch of South Carolina State and Jackson State. So it's going to be exciting to see how Jackson State improves from last year. And I think they're going to make another big leap. And I'm excited to see what they have to offer. So those are my top 5. If you guys have missed it, I have coming in at number 5 for HBCU top teams going into 2022. Grambling coming in at number 5. Prairie View is coming at number 4. FAMU at number 3. South Carolina State University at number 2. And of course, the big dogs out there in Jackson, Mississippi, Jackson State is number 1. So that's my list. If you have any questions or comments, please leave it in the comment section. If you feel like there's another sneaky HBCU team that's going to make some noise, I would like to know, and we will definitely talk about it. But that right there is my top 5. And let's go ahead and move on to our next topic, which is the NBA Finals. And the Warriors are the king of the NBA. The Warriors were able to close out the series in 6 games with a 103-90 victory against the Boston Celtics. And look, Boston, let me start here. Boston played a great series. I don't think anybody thought that they would take the Warriors to 6 or even win a game in Golden State, to be quite frank. But they played their butts off. They won game 1. Everybody thought, hey, this might be a better series than we thought. Because I think a lot of analysts and a lot of people thought Golden State would win in 5 games, which wasn't the case. Wasn't going to be the case. Boston is a great team when they're all healthy. They're very strong as far as defensively. But man, what a time to get cold. Oh my goodness. What a time to get cold. Wow. We're talking about Jason Tatum had a rough game. Was only managed to have 13 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists. It was really tough for him to get going. It was hard to see because he's been playing well the whole postseason. When there was a time you needed a bucket, Jason Tatum was giving it to you. And this was just the one series that really you can tell he was struggling. I mean, we're talking about Draymond being a nuisance. And the Warriors went small the whole series. It wasn't like they was throwing out 7-foot dudes against Jason Tatum. That wasn't the case. We're talking about Draymond was playing the 5, and that was really messing them up. But then they put Andrew Wiggins on him, and all of a sudden Andrew Wiggins became a lockdown defender and was giving Jason Tatum fits. And I believe Jason Tatum was like the first player in history to have 100 turnovers in the postseason, which is tough, but he's still a young player. Don't get me wrong. Jason Tatum is a very young player. He's going to get it right eventually. And everybody had to pay their dues. I was talking to my friend about it not too long ago. You know, he's a young player. Everybody had to pay them dues. He was talking about LeBron James had to pay his dues. Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, they all had to pay their dues. They were young dudes that just wasn't ready for the spotlight. And the Warriors basically whole team, especially their big 3, has championship experience, and they know how to get it done in the playoffs. So this is not the last time you're going to see Jason Tatum in the finals. I think they're going to make it again. Jaylen Brown had a big game with 34 points. Al Horford had a big double-double. Unfortunately, Robert Williams was hurt basically the whole postseason. So, when you play hurt, it's kind of hard to get stuff done. Derek White didn't play well. Marcus Smart was in foul trouble, picking up these weird ticky-tack fouls that they were calling all game 6. So, unfortunately, he didn't have the best of games. And look, it was a tough time to get cold for the Celtics, and that's just what happened. And look, the Warriors, what more can you say, man? They are a team nobody ever wants to see. I mean, especially when they're healthy, man. Of course, their last 2 seasons, Clay is hurt with injuries for 2 years. Steph messes up his wrist, basically misses out the whole season. And now everybody's healthy this year. Everybody was healthy this year. They played extremely well the whole season. It wasn't like this was like a late spurt that the Golden State Warriors had. They played well all season up until the end. They kind of struggled a little bit when Steph had his ankle injury because Marcus Smart just basically launched at his ankle. It was pretty crazy, but going for the ball. But I mean, look, at the end of the day, health matters. Health matters, and this is a prime example of that. The Warriors just got healthy, and they just played Warriors basketball. And here they are again, champions of the NBA. And let's look at some stats. Steph Curry went nuts again with 34 points. Struggled in the beginning, but ended up playing very well at the end. Klay Thompson, Game 6 Klay, didn't really play like Game 6 Klay. He kind of stuck it up. But that's okay. He's a champion, a 4-time champion. Draymond Green played very well. He kind of struggled throughout the whole series, but played very well in this game. Had 12 points, 12 rebounds, and 8 assists. That's a good stat line, especially for Draymond Green. And then Andrew Wiggins didn't play his best, not like he did in Game 5, where he played very well, but had 18 points and did a lot of things in the box score that doesn't show up. He played great defense. Was making it hard for people to score, especially Jason Tatum. And, he scored when he needed to. He gave them very big buckets at the end of the game. And so I think 2 players who are big X factors, you always need that one X factor for your team. And I think for the Golden State Warriors, Gary Payton II played amazing. Although he only had 6 points, he played outstanding because he was making it hard for the Boston Celtics to even get into the offensive set. This man was a nuisance. Was just playing full court defense, was getting his hands on the ball, stripping the basketballs, getting out to easy transitions for the Golden State Warriors. Look, Gary Payton II played amazing basketball. And look, he took something from his dad, Gary Payton, because man, he can play some defense and he's really athletic. I think he's way more athletic than his father, which is pretty crazy. But, man, he played a great game. And I think the emergence of Jordan Poole this season really set up the Golden State Warriors to have a great year, okay? Jordan Poole was a big revelation for the Warriors, man. When Klay Thompson was hurt half the season, Jordan Poole played out of his mind, and he really helped that team go. He was basically Klay Thompson while Klay Thompson was hurt. He was filling that role very well, and nothing changed when Klay Thompson came back. He just played, either he played the 3 or he came off the bench and gave the Warriors much needed bench scoring because the Warriors team isn't that deep. Let's just be 100% honest. They're not a deep team. They might play 7 or 8 people. Basically, who they bring. Looney maybe first off the bench. Gary Payton and Jordan Poole, maybe Bielitsa, and that's as far as they will go. That's as far as they will go as far as their bench. So with him providing them scoring that they needed, he really helped that team go. And Jordan Poole had a big 15 points coming off the bench, only playing 18 minutes. Didn't play that much, but played well enough to win a championship. So this brings me to a question as far as the Warriors. They can't keep everybody. It's basically impossible for them to keep everybody happy unless some people are taking team-friendly deals, which I don't think is going to be the case because, look, they gave Stephen Curry basically a whole bank to stay for the Warriors for like another year. I believe he had like almost a $200 million contract or something of that nature. They basically paid this man so much money. And Klay Thompson is making a lot of money. He just re-signed not too long ago, so he's not going anywhere. Draymond is not going anywhere. They're going to make sure he's getting paid. Well, now that I think about it, Draymond is getting a little bit older. And look, it might be to the point where they have to come down and decide either it's going to be Draymond or Jordan Poole. Who would you choose if you're thinking long term? You're going to choose Jordan Poole. And that's going to suck to really think about, you might have to leave Draymond because look, Draymond is not the best scorer. He does his little things, doing hustle plays, playing defense, getting trash talking and getting to the head of players. That's his job. But if you're thinking about, look, I need a scorer, I need somebody who's going to put the ball in the hoop, you're going to pay for Jordan Poole. And it's going to be hard because Jordan Poole's going to want his money. He's still a young guy, and he's going to want his money. So they have a lot to think about, especially next year, because I believe this was his 3rd year in the league. And usually when you get to that 4th year, this is when you start thinking about getting your first big contract. So you really have to if I was the front office of the Warriors, I'll be like, man, this is such a hard decision because we're talking about coming in between Draymond Green and Jordan Poole. Both can really ball out. So that's going to be extremely tough for them. So we have to see how it goes. But for all I know is the Warriors will definitely be a top team going into next season as they try to defend their title and really and really make it a dynasty. So I think that they have it. They have what it takes to win. They're still going to be a strong team. I believe everybody is going to, run it back and really and make a big run. Make a big run. So what I am going to do is I am going to go ahead and take a break right now. What we're going to do is watch the Game 6 highlights of the NBA Finals. And yeah, when we come back, we're still going to have more of the finals talk. And so I will be back, and I hope you guys enjoy the highlights. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And yeah, I will be back. Wow, my mic was muted the whole time. Thank you so much. And so, yeah, both of these men, you know, they are strong contenders. And I think, look, both of these men, Stephen Curry, they both have 4 rings, man. They are both strong contenders. And so, I don't know. I feel like if any of these guys get a ring at the end, look, it's gonna be amazing. So yeah, I think both of these guys, they're destined for the Hall of Fame. They're going to be first ballot Hall of Famers, and they are some of the best generational talents the NBA has ever seen. So yeah. I am going to go ahead and stop there. I appreciate everybody. Well, they didn't listen because my mic was muted for 30 minutes. But that's all right, man. That's kind of what you get. So I appreciate everybody coming on, and I will be back next week for sure. And I appreciate everybody watching me and watching my mouth move, and you hear nothing. So I'll see you guys next week. Peace.